Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda. I'm back with some more scary facts about Marvel's Moon Knight. So strap in and get ready to get a little spooked as we learn more about the MCU's darkest superhero edition. Probably Marvel's darkest superhero within the comics as well. One of, at the very least. Do you think there are any superheroes within Marvel that are actually darker? And are there any scary facts that you feel like we left out? Feel free to let us know in the comments below. Who knows, maybe we'll do a part 3. But for now, let's take a look at the top scary Moon Knight facts part 2. Alright, let's get spooky. Number 10. The Dark Knight. So while many have horrifyingly dismissed Mark as just another Batman ripoff, we're here to calmly assure you it's just not so. While there are a good number of similarities that can be pointed to in regards to the heroes, never fear, Top 10 Nerd is here to point out the prominent differences. Batman fights for justice, so he never kills, whereas Moon Knight fights for Khonshu and was a former mercenary, who has no problem whatsoever with killing his enemies. Beyond that, their motivations are completely different. Batman is driven by his guilt in the death of his parents, Mark is driven by his almost contractual obligation to Khonshu. His path as a hero is less direct and takes him all over the place. Then there is the easy one. See if you can spot it. Batman wears all black, Moon Knight wears all white. Batman hides in the shadows, Moon Knight wants his enemies to see him coming. That's why he wears white. I'm not making that up either, that's straight out of the comics. Number 9. Not so ancient weapons. While his weapons come from the ancient Egyptian tomb where he was laid to rest beneath Khonshu's idol and received his powers, they are not as old as they seem. Well, they sort of are, but they also aren't. His weapons are actually surprisingly modern. While this may not seem scary to you, this story involves some timey-wimey time travel stuff, and time travel can be pretty terrifying as it can mess up you and your life's trajectory. Hardcore. To me, the idea of that is pretty scary. In a West Coast Avengers storyline, the team gets flung thousands of years into the past and ends up in ancient Egypt. Hawkeye fashions weapons to help the priests of Khonshu defend themselves, and it is these weapons that end up in the tomb where Moon Knight later receives his powers. So yeah, he wouldn't really be himself if not for time travel and Hawkeye and the West Coast Avengers. And oddly enough, Moon Knight also becomes a West Coast Avenger. Weirdly cyclical storytelling, making me wonder if the Marvel Universe is actually stuck in some kind of time loop. Number 8. Bushman was resurrected. So if you've watched my part 1, you know that Mark skinned Bushman's face off and left him for dead after breaking both of his own knees in their epic fight. But did you know that Bushman was later resurrected? Yep, that's right. You thought resurrection was just saved for Khonshu? Cause it's not. Moon Knight goes up against Bushman again after he is resurrected by the Hood. The Hood resurrected Bushman when tasked by Norman Osborn with getting rid of Moon Knight. During the events of the Vengeance of the Moon Knight series, a tussle eventually ensues between Moon Knight and his number 1 enemy, Bushman. Mark gets the upper hand and impales Bushman with a machine gun. He actually goes to cut off his face again, but decides against it in the end. Whew. Number 7. Member of the Avengers. That's right, Moon Knight was even Steve Rogers approved to join up, even after he terrified Beast after having an indifferent, some would say even jovial reaction to being shot in the leg. Despite the fact that he often claims that he is a loner, Mark has actually been a part of multiple Avengers teams, including the West Coast Avengers. Many other heroes have feared working alongside him simply because they worry about his mental instability and how it will affect him while on missions. Granted, so far he has managed to behave pretty well while on teams and rein in his other personalities when he needs to. Number 6. He fights ghosts. You heard me right. The cool thing about Moon Knight is because he has so many different personas, he is actually a very versatile hero and character. He can fit in almost anywhere, whether it be in his own dark violence stories, in the criminal underbelly of New York, serving vigilante justice, alongside the fellow Avengers, or in the Mystic Realm. He has even worked alongside Doctor Strange. We could see him pop up in the MCU just about anywhere, and he could fit in. He has proven before that he truly belonged in the mysterious Mystic world when he was in his detective persona, Mr. Knight. During Moon Knight Volume 5, we see him take to the streets, solving mysteries and punching ghosts. Literally. Spooky. Number 5. Officially registered under the Superhuman Registration Act. During the Superhuman Registration Act in the events of Civil War, Moon Knight is being monitored by Tony Stark Stark. Concerned about his sanity and considering Moon Knight unfit to be a hero, Stark considers arresting Moon Knight. Eventually, Mark reluctantly registers, listening to the voice of Khonshu, who implores him to do so. Unfortunately, he has to undergo and pass a psychiatric examination in order to be approved. Of course, the psychiatrist has no intention of passing Mark after interviewing his multiple personalities, but just as he was about to be failed, Mark uses the will of Khonshu to convince the psychiatrist to approve him. Or rather, Khonshu speaks through Mark. The psychiatrist does just that and also ends up bowing down to him. Ooh, scary stuff. Number 4. Heroic Personas. With an S. You may be familiar with Moon Knight, Mark Spector's vigilante persona, but are you familiar with his other heroic personas? I'm not talking about Mr. Knight, Jake Lockley, or Steve Grant. I'm talking about Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Wolverine, among others. Mark is called on these personas when acting alone to try and bolster his courage. He even impersonated Spider-Man while getting into a fight at a strip club, much to Spider-Man's dismay. Number 3. Marks people for their crimes. In Moon Knight Volume 3, part of the complaints made against Moon Knight while he is wrestling with the Superhuman Registration Act is that he is marking people. While we discussed the face-off situation between he and Bushman on the previous Scary Facts list, this one may be even scarier. As I've said before, Moon Knight is not your typical Marvel superhero. Some may not even consider him a superhero, because he is violent, gruesome, and dark. He marks his victims with the symbol of the moon by carving it into their skin. The idea is probably to teach them a lesson, to mark them, and make them remember. However, some of his victims don't seem to learn, and so they get marked multiple times. It will be interesting to see if the MCU adopts this trait of marks. It will be interesting to see if the MCU adopts this. Ooh. Number 2. Watches you in the dark. As scary as this one sounds, it's really kinda sweet. While Moon Knight is often known as being a vigilante who gets his powers and strength from the moon, that is to say he's stronger at night and is known as Khonshu, the Egyptian moon god's servant, he was also at one point a protector of travelers. Specifically those, of course, that traveled at night. He would follow around everyday people who are on their way home from work or just on their way from one place to another. He has even guarded over those who are asleep, traveling in their dreams. Not going to lie, the idea of anyone watching me while I sleep at night creeps me out, even if it's just Moon Knight trying to protect me. Thanks, but also kind of no thanks. Number 1. He's not real. Or is he? Mark Spector has dealt with pondering about whether or not Khonshu is real when it comes to wrestling with his mental illness, making us also wonder at the same thing. But we have always known that at least he is real, right? Wrong. In Moon Knight Volume 3, the writers of the series at the time even try to mess with our reality when it comes to the character's appearance. While being shot at, his attacker demands to know in frustration why none of his bullets seem to be hitting Moon Knight, to which Mark replies, "I'm not real." The way the action sequence is drawn even leaves the reader questioning. The first 6 issues of this Moon Knight run are also maybe some of the neatest. There are also the issues that involve his run-in with ghosts, and who doesn't want to see Moon Knight question his own existence and punch ghosts? The creative team of Warren Ellis, Declan Shalvey, and Jordi Belair, who worked on these issues, did a brilliant job with the series' first arc before leaving to create the series Injection over at Image Comics, which you should also check out if you enjoyed their exploration of Moon Knight's character. Plus, it's also really pretty. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you learned some new things about Moon Knight and were spooked by a few of them. His weird obsession with carving people's faces definitely has me spooked, and the fact that he could be watching you while you sleep. What did you find the most scary on this list, and who else are you excited to see join the MCU? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're on your way down there, be sure to tap that like, smash that sub, and ring our bell. And feel free to give this list a share if you know other MCU fans who would like to learn more. Till next time, this is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.